All right. Thank you, all of you, for joining, and welcome to today's session. I remain your facilitator, Dr. Chukwudi Okonkwo, and the course is still CROD 305, Rural Development. Last time we talked about implementation appraisals and financing of rural development projects. We had a very interactive section last time. So today we will be talking about um, some typical problems of rural areas today. All right, so let's go straight to it. Let me share my slides so you can join me. Share my slide. All right. Okay, that's it. Okay, now, so today we'll be talking about some typical problems of rural areas and the problems of rural development in Nigeria. As is our tradition, I will speak a bit and then you have to unmute yourself along the way. Like I said, as is our tradition, we'll have to I'll have to speak a bit and then you will unmute yourself along the way and then ask your questions. All right. Now, the expectation after today's session, at least when I've finished, after we have interacted, is that everyone that goes through this recording, anyone that's part of this our facilitation session, should be able to identify and explain the typical problems of rural areas. Everyone should be able to define the meaning of rural development, explain it to anyone, probably to any market woman or any child. Every student that goes through this material should be able to identify and discuss the problems of rural development in Nigeria. Okay, as a way of introduction, even though there are different rural areas, or in different rural areas, they have different unique problems that can be ascribed to them. Generally, they are typically what we can call them general problems that are common to all rural areas that affect socioeconomic lives of the inhabitants of such areas. So such problems accumulate in rural urban drift and other social vices. We will be discussing the typical problems of the rural areas so that rural developers will take cognizance of them in their developmental efforts. Also, we'll be discussing them so that students like you and I will be able to know them and as well use them in our professional pursuit in development sciences or development studies. Now, what are the typical problems of rural areas? Before we go into the problems, we can just quickly run through some of the things that identifies a rural area from an urban area. In our first facilitation session, we mentioned a couple of them, but I just mentioned one or two of them. We talked about the homogeneity of rural areas against the heterogeneity of urban areas. We talked about the concentration of people of one particular language, sociocultural incline in an area, possibly a rural area. But in urban areas, they are mixed. So we said that urban areas are dense in their population, rural areas are fewer in their population, and all that. Now, some typical problems of rural areas like low income and unemployment are among the main problems inherent in rural areas. Scholarly author publications have presented these two typical problems, low income, employment. Now, they emerge in several aspects. How do they emerge? They can emerge as problems with the labor force, low labor productivity, low prices of agricultural products. Now, let me explain this a bit so that you get the point. When we say low income and employment as a typical problem of rural area is this. If someone within an urban environment is organizing a tutorial, for example, and he's teaching maths and English, let's assume, I don't know exactly how much they charge per child to teach. Let's just assume that they can be audacious and charge each child coming to learn maths and English, let's say 20,000 naira. When we put that against a rural environment where someone with the same cognitive abilities, the same expertise, tries to teach the rural people maths and English, low income as a problem of rural areas emanates in this matter, in this way. Such a person cannot charge them 20,000 naira because they can pay. When you check the two, you realize that the one in the rural areas is tending to charge maybe 3,005, 4,000, at most 5,000 for such a services. Yet it is the same expertise that is required for the service. So you see that if you're in the rural area, you earn less using your expertise than when you go to an urban area and you earn more. Of course, most of us are from local areas and villages, and we notice that once people attain a certain level of education, they migrate to the urban area where they earn more. So this low income that the rural area fetches professionals, experts, technocrats, and all that is a problem because such people will not stay there for a very long time because they earn low from their services. Okay, now let's move to another one. Typical features of rural areas is surplus of labor force due to fewer jobs that are open. And you know that is an issue. If you did principles of economics, you will understand the demand and supply interaction, the forces of demand and the forces of supply. When you have more labor force, definitely people will not pay much for your services. But when you have scarcity of labor, people tend to pay more. So it's a typical problem of, you say, surplus labor force is a good thing, but it's not a good thing in a rural area where fewer jobs exist because a lot of people will be unemployed. You understand that? So that is a problem. Another typical problem of rural area is that most new jobs are for unskilled workers. So the wages and the nature of work are unattractive. That is a problem. Of course, you and I know that anything you want to do in terms of employment, you would like to do, take a job or an employment that you're attracted to, that you love. But because the wages are not there, the jobs are not there, most people in the rural area tend to take unattractive works. Another typical problem, workers with higher qualification migrate to the cities. Therefore, you can't get real quality of workers in the rural areas. That is a problem as well. Now, these problems that we just highlighted now can be solved by creating more employment opportunities and extra income for the people of these regions. Problems of labor force are the most serious and difficult to solve. Why is it so? Because they affect people with their skills, initiative, and opportunities. Besides unemployment, another problem is the depopulation of the rural areas and drastic aging process. When we say depopulation, anytime skilled workers move from rural areas to urban areas, the rural areas become less populated to the effect of the number of people that moved. Let's say 20,000 people are in this rural area. Now, after graduation this year, let's say 60 of them became graduates. As soon as they graduate, for them to get or earn better pay and earn with their qualification, they have to move to the city. So the village becomes less in population. They are depopulated by the number of people that move away. And then those that stay in the villages mostly are the aged. Even if they had a white collar job in the village, as they start becoming older, they say, okay, let me go to my village and relax. So they move to the village, the older one. And those that did not move to the villages or the rural areas, but those that did not move to the cities in search of white collar job, but lived and worked in the rural areas, of course, most of them start getting aged at a point, and that can be a problem as well. Now, in the rural area, there are also low labor productivity. We mentioned that before because low labor productivity means that the labor productivity of the urban person tends to be more than that of the rural area, which may be increased by introducing more modern technology, upgrading skills of workers, providing better working conditions, and so on and so forth. One of the reasons for low income of the people in the rural area is the low prices of agricultural products. The market forces demand for basic goods grows more slowly than that of luxury goods and services. Obviously, agricultural products the prices in the rural areas are quite low. And if the major earners don't earn enough, they won't have enough to spend on other aspects of life where they have to make such expenditures. And that invariably makes the income of every other person in the rural area low. Sometimes purchasing prices are maintained intentionally low. That's purchasing prices of agricultural products are maintained intentionally low when there is only one buyer or group of purchasers in agricultural production. To solve this problem, at least partially, many farmers are trying to increase their income by processing the raw materials and production of finished goods. That is, closing the production cycle. For example, they plant cassava. Rather than sell it cheap, they process it into gari and it becomes more expensive and they sell it higher and make more money. So that's some of the ways they are mitigating this problem. In many regions, is in many regions there are development or developing cooperation between farmers. All right, so that is another one. Now, the second group of problems associated with is associated with working and poor working and living condition in the rural areas due to underdeveloped infrastructure and public services. The current state of infrastructural facilities in the rural areas, such as roads, water supply, and sewages, as well as electricity, communication networks, are very poor. This situation, together with low quality of health, as well as education, is the main reason for migration and depopulation of rural areas. Solving this problem is possible through close cooperation with local government authorities, which make efficient the use of opportunities provided by international donors. One example is the EU for regional development. All right, some others have said this. Now, another problem is economic insecurity generated by the realization of agricultural production. The market economy mechanism increase the role of supply and demand as factors that dictate the prices of agricultural production or products. Now, the adverse nature or the adverse natural conditions are also a factor for inconsistency in people's income. State of the environment further reduces the quality of life in rural areas. Much of the agricultural lands are polluted, in some cases with pesticides or by industrial plants, making it difficult to produce quality and healthy products at that. Now, let's haven't talked about the area problems of rural areas. Let's talk about some problems of rural development in Nigeria in general. Now, of course, rural development is a process that tries to improve the socio-economic standard, the physical standard, the mental standard, the overall lifestyle of the people living in the rural areas. Now, there are some problems that are linked to this process. Before we talk about that, the meaning of rural development, we've defined it earlier, but let's define it again. Rural development can be viewed as the development of the moral, social, political, and economic potentialities of rural communities to enhance their self-reliance through the provision of appropriate infrastructures, such as pipe-borne water, electricity, good roads, and small-scale industries, increase their political consciousness and participation, promote their moral and social well-being, which will result in tolerance, good discipline, justice, fairness, kindness, love, and peace. This definition of rural development was propounded by Wobi 2007. In Okoye's conceptualization, which was cited in Felani's write-up, it defined rural development as the process of making life more satisfying and fulfilling for millions of people living in rural areas. Okay, now the problem of rural development in Nigeria. Let's start with the first one. The first one, approaches to rural development in Nigeria have been hard work in nature. What does this mean? Of course, when we say hard work, it means that it has not always been a permanent kind of approach. It's when you want to go into the rural development itself, you come up with an approach. That's what you mean by hard work. It's not permanent, it's not established, that this is how we'll go about it. And once it is not established like that, it is always neither here nor there. The second problem of rural development in Nigeria is that rural development programs in Nigeria lack the rudiments of long-term planning. Of course, long-term planning means that you say we want to develop this rural area in the next 10 years, and this is what we'll do in the first 2 years, the next 2 years, the next 2 years, and in the next 4 years, this is what we'll do. That is the rudiment of a long-term plan. But ours is ad hoc, meaning that it is on the spur of the moment decision to develop the rural area, maybe through cooperative. So you say, form cooperative, and apply for this particular loan, and we'll give it to you for farming. At the end of the year, tell us what you have farmed, and that is it. Then the next year, you say market women should register in this particular link, register this particular and send this short code to this particular number so that they can access petty cash and small loans to finance their business. That is not good. That is hard work. That is hard work. In as much as these are good approaches, but they should be part of a long-term plan. Number three problem of rural development in Nigeria is that most designs and implementation strategy of rural development projects in Nigeria appeal only to political needs of the ruling class. Of course, if you have a rural development plan that is ad hoc, a rural development plan that is short term, of course, it's going to appeal to the politician. How does it appeal to the politician? The politician often likes projects that are within the 4-year term of his office, where he can say, within this period, we did this, and we did this, and did that. If it was a long-term plan, most of their tenures will still be on or out. They may be out of office when the rural development plan or approach to development will still be in process, so they cannot brag about it. Number four, problem of rural development in Nigeria. Some of the rural development projects are white elephant projects that do not address the felt needs of the rural people. Of course, we have explained in this facilitation session again and again that if you want to make real impact in rural development, you should assess the felt need of the people most appropriately from bottom top. That is, you go there through using a survey, through interviews, through focal groups. We've listed those avenues, and find out what the felt need of the people. And if it is bottom top, you will not miss it. But once it is top down, you miss it. Why? You think the people need market roads, yet the people say their problem is insecurity. But if you ask them, they will tell you it's insecurity. But you did not ask them, so this is top up. You are from up. You are coming down to give them good road, yet they are still suffering from insecurity, and rural development projects are not fulfilled or accomplished. So white elephant projects concerning needs that the people don't, concerning projects that people don't need, is a problem of rural development in Nigeria. Number five, most rural development programs are geared towards agricultural matters only. Remember, let's go to that definition of WOBI. Look at the definition of WOBI. It's on your screen now. Rural development can be viewed as the development of moral, social, political, economic potentialities of the rural communities to enhance their self-reliance through provision of appropriate infrastructure. Now, take note, it is not only the political side of the rural people that is being developed, it's the moral, social, political, and economic potentialities of the people that is being developed. So if you focus on only agriculture, which tries to appeal to the political side of Nigeria, what about the social side? What about the moral side? What about the economic side? And so on and so forth. So this is a problem. Number six, inadequate extension and research facilities militate against rural development efforts in Nigeria. Now, when you have rural development that is going for, that is trying to make reasonable impact, extension and research facilities are key to this. Now, some of you may say, what do we mean by extension? We have agricultural extension, we have cooperative extension, but basically, by and large, extension simply means taking knowledge from where it is domiciled to where it is needed. So if you have inadequate extension programs, because extension programs are key to taking research findings to farmers in the field, taking social findings to people that are in the rural areas, taking economic findings from where they are researched to where they are needed. So it's extension that is the vehicle that takes this research findings to where it's required. And if they are inadequate, meaning the people in the rural areas their efforts will be nullified because they will be suffering from issues that has been solved, only that there's nobody taking them information from where it is domiciled to where it is needed. So inadequate extension and research facility is a problem. Number 7, some of the rural development projects are planned and implemented without adequate data. Of course, data, they say these days, is life. I'm not the one that said it. It is the network operators that provide us with expensive data these days that said data is life. With data, you can know the number of personnel to send to an area. With data, you can realize the kind of extension program you require for a particular area without firing blank. Number 8, wrong policy statements that render developmental projects and programs ineffective. There was a time that the federal government of Nigeria issued a policy statement that rice should not be imported into the country. And it looks as if we were going to suffer shortage in rice. But that policy made farmers go into the field and produce local rice in its abundant state. However, another policy statement came again and opened the borders to let in foreign rice, and that jeopardized the production of rice in some areas. Such programs, such policy statements that are, we call them policy statements that are somersaulting and clashing with each other as it concerns rural areas, tend to be a problem at that. Now, number 9, negative attitude of rural dwellers. Some rural dwellers have totally negative attitude. That is why the definition of what we talked about changing of the moral, social, and political and economic potentiality of the people. Why? So that you can bring about discipline, tolerance, justice, fairness, kindness, love, and peace. Now, if you can bring about these attributes in the rural dwellers, the negative attitude of rural dwellers should be changed. So negative attitude is a problem. And it can play out in certain ways. I mentioned it in some of our facilitation sessions. Some rural dwellers are very, very myopic in their thinking. I remember one of my friends that's an engineer. He has a contract in one of the villages somewhere in Nigeria, and they carried their equipment and they went to implement that project. The rural people will benefit from the project because they were going to construct roads, water, and different infrastructure. But the same people that will benefit from the roads, from the water, and all that ganged up and seized their materials and said the people, the construction company should pay them before they construct a road for them, before they do water for them. Can't you see that that is counterproductive? That is a rural negative attitude. It's a negative attitude. Number 10, embezzlement and corruption. I hope I will not have to explain this. Most of us understand what embezzlement and corruption is. Now, in summary, today we have discussed the typical problem of rural areas, which is an eye-opener to all stakeholders in rural development. In the next unit, we'll be talking about approaches to rural development in order to understand the different directions from which rural development could be addressed. Also, we have discussed the meaning of rural development and the problems of rural development in Nigeria. This is to say that despite all the efforts of successful government and other groups, there are problems militating against rural development in Nigeria. This will give insight to rural developers into what measures to put in place in order to check and curtail the problem. All right, that's about it for today. Now, I want you to unmute yourself. It's time to ask questions. I will ask if I have any, and you ask if you have any. So you can unmute yourself now and ask me questions. All right, who is going first?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Idris.
Good evening, sir.
Welcome. Yes, I can
Thank
hear
you.
you.
Yes, sir. I said, when you talk about some of the typical problems of rural areas,
Yes.
yes, I couldn't get this depopulation because the network is somehow my place. So I couldn't get your explanation on it. Please, I don't know if you can just
Population.
do it. Depopulation.
Okay, okay. Okay, depopulation. When we say
Yes,
beside unemployment, another problem is depopulation of the rural area. Is that it? Yes. Okay. You know, at times, those in the rural areas they tend to lose their population to the urban area. We call it rural-urban migration. Depopulation simply means the population of the rural area is reducing. And it's not just reducing because people are dying. No, it's because people are migrating to the urban areas where they are searching for greener pastures, where they are searching for higher productivity from their efforts and services. Like I use an example of a teacher that teaches extramural classes, and the same teacher can teach in the urban area, can teach in the rural area, but the rural dwellers can't pay as much as the urban dwellers can pay. So it is only natural for the teacher to, after a while, move from the rural area to an urban area where he can earn more, get extra income. And the more skilled people that are moving from the rural areas to the urban areas, the more they live, the more depopulated the rural area is. That's what we mean by depopulation. Another problem is depopulation of the rural people. It is the migration of skilled workers from the rural areas to the urban areas in search of extra income. That's what I mean. All right, I hope that's clear. Any other person with a question? Any other person with a question? Okay. May I ask my own question? I hope you are having a good time with your discussion forum questions and you have attempted your TMAs up to this point, because it's important that you are ready, because this month, hopefully your exams will start. Is your exam timetable out yet?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
It's just the draft copy of the timetable that is out.
Okay. I want to employ you, once you know the date of this particular exam, let me know. Probably before that day, we'll have one session for revision where we just go through several questions, go through the materials up and down. So we see how much we can do. So you'll be fresh in your knowledge going into the exams. I think that will help you.
So from the draft copy, we'll have it on the 16th of this month, from the draft copy. That is the draft
like 2
copy.
weeks.
Yes, sir.
2 weeks time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that means we have one more
in the
session.
afternoon.
Okay. All right. Please, in the WhatsApp forum, just post the date, not the draft, when you get the authentic copy.
Yes, as I said, draft.
Post it so I can schedule myself. We have another class before that time, because the facilitation session is ending very soon. So we can do some revision.
I have a question, sir.
Okay, ask your question.
So, sir, we are talking about the problems of rural development. Yes. Looking at the problems of rural development, some of the problems are also peculiar to the urban areas, to the urban.
Okay.
Like some projects. So it's supposed to be like long-term projects. Some of these projects are not always long-term.
Also, it is political. That's why.
Yes. Okay.
Is that politicians have tenure in office, and it's affecting everything.
Okay.
Because the tenure in office for maybe the governor, the president is 4 years, and subsequent re-election is 4 years, as maximum 8 years. Most of them can't take a project that will go beyond that period, and some of them want to see the end of the project before they leave. It's an advantage as well as a disadvantage, because they will only be going for quick fix. For example, project like railway is not a quick fix.
Yes.
You can't provide railway in 4 years or 8 years to the entire country. It's not a quick fix. And even while you are in the 8th year of providing railway, the part of the railway project you provided in the first and second year will start going bad, and people will start saying, you didn't do well. But that is the nature of how the project. It is a massive project, and the country is so big, you can't cover the entire country in just 8 years. Of course, the past administration tried their best. You can see where they stopped. This one will go another 8 years now. You will see that they didn't cover the entire country. So that is politics for you. It has an impact on rural development. It makes projects short. So peculiar problems can't be solved with short solutions. Like education. Education can't be solved with short solution. You must have a plan, a stretch of plan for a long time for education to actually impact a particular people. For example, if you want to change the way people behave in a particular urban area, the minimum number of years you can implement straight without break is 30 years. Because, let me give you an example. One thing you will find out is that if you said, okay, don't break traffic rules, don't throw piece of paper here, change of attitude like this, you must continue for 30 years so that all the children that were born in the past 30 years will see that you are behaving in that manner. And they will naturally just think that that's how you should behave. Why our children will not change the way they behave, why the attitude of people will not change in terms of development is that the development will come, people will behave in this manner. After a while, they stop behaving that manner. So the generations don't see it as our attitude, they see it as maybe something that comes and goes. These advanced countries, you'll notice that they say don't beat traffic light, don't wee by the side of the road, don't do this. They've implemented this trait for several years, such that if they give birth to you today, you see people doing the right thing. So you can't even know how to do the wrong thing because you can't see anybody doing the wrong thing. I don't know if I'm getting towards, getting a point.
Yes, very well, yes. Because yes.
Most of you are going to become development strategists as you leave school. Selling this to you because in a short while, someone needs to tell the politicians that these plans are too short. It must be implemented long term to bring about real and impactful development for us in Nigeria. I'm not concerned about the urban areas because the urban areas are like human beings. They tend to react and change and morph and change. But the rural areas, you must consciously bring about development there for it to happen. You can take an example like Lagos, the traffic situation. If the traffic situation becomes so choked up, people react and changes will start happening. But the rural area, no, it will remain like that if nothing is done. I think that is why I think some of those problems are common.
They're very difficult to train, to change.
Yes,
it's very difficult.
Yes, it's true. We've seen this again and again. Like the city where I stay now, the traffic lights, some people beat it and they are intercepted and they are charged and they are paid. They pay some penalties.
Yes,
and that has been happening for some years. Do you know a particular government came in and they slowed down on that charging, they slowed down on penalties, and all of a sudden the city broke down into lawlessness because the government was no longer enforcing those penalties for traffic violation. Now this new government is now trying. So it's making it difficult for the new government. But if they had continued it, now most of the children we have will just wake up and say, once it's green, please wait. Oh, if you beat it, everybody in the vehicle will start shouting. If it's a commercial vehicle, start shouting, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? But now they are begging him, okay, beat it. We are going quick. We are going late to work. Meaning that they've not been changed.
Yes, it's very hard.
Yes.
Very, so hard.
So we need. That's why the long-term plan is important, not short plan. Short plan. And short plan don't solve much. Really, it doesn't. All right, that is about it. Do you have another question?
Thank you so much, Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other person with a question?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir, Jimmy.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. I can hear you.
Please, my question is about the exams. So, well, you know that when we're doing like e-exam, they always say, you have to write exactly what is your course material. And I also heard that it's like that for POP. So I wanted to know, as in, must we, like, when we have like all these definitions, must we write exactly what is on the course material, or we are allowed to, write it in our own words?
Okay, let me help you understand how things are done, Rita. Now, because this is an open and distant learning program, everybody's expected to write from one study material so that there will be uniformity. So you see, this course material now is what is going to be used to draft the marking guide. Those that teach you, in most cases, are different from those that mark your script. And in some cases, they are different from those that set the question. But the uniformity in it is that both the person that teaches, the person that set the question, the person that marks is getting all the information from one course material. Are you getting it? Now, so what I will advise you to do is that try as much as possible to write what is in your course material before you start writing what you know generally. All right, follow this sequence. Write what is in the course material first before you write what you know generally. If I was to mark this course, I will mark your general thoughts because I understand the ramifications of the ideas. If you don't give me Moby's definition of rural development, if you give me that of Felani, that of Koye, that of Abubakar, I will still know it. It's a course I've been teaching for a while. But if someone else that is not myself that's teaching, that's marking it, the person may not know the other definitions. So he'll be looking at the guide that's given to him directly, and he may not understand and give you the score you deserve. So give us what we gave to you first, then you add general knowledge. Is that okay?
Yes.
That's my humble advice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Now, before we go, generally in my course, this particular course, students tend to perform very well. Yet we still have those that don't perform very well. And I will hope that this particular class, you will not disappoint me, because whenever this particular course is being moderated, I'm always proud because I see students scoring well, and I say, okay, yes, I taught well, I facilitated very well, and it makes me proud of the class. So please, I want to appeal to you. You guys are more than this. I know others are going to watch this video after now. So I'm appealing to everyone that has been in this class to make me proud. I don't want this class to be the class that will make my results terrible. I'm not the one marking, but anytime I see the result when we are moderating it, I'll say, wow, my students did well. Please let this set don't disappoint me. Most people pass this course so well, and I'm very proud of saying it. So please, guys, don't disappoint me at all. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. I'll see you
Thank you, sir.
next week. For those of you that don't know where to watch or access instructional videos, if you go to your portal, it is attached there. You will see instructional videos there. Just click on it and you watch it. All right. Go to the chat box and see there's a link there. You can easily from there, you'll see other instructional videos. I've posted the link now. You can watch it. All right. That is about it for today. Take care and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye, sir.
Have a lovely week ahead.
Yes, I wish you the same. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.